Hi guys, I'm Ling and this is my boyfriend Austin. Today is Labor Day and it's also the day before Austin starts his new job. So we're gonna go on a little adventure around the city and I'm gonna ask Austin some questions about how he got his software engineering job in FAANG. I don't know how you're an adult. We just got off the public bus and it was so smelly and so loud.
I miss Amsterdam bus.
God, that guy was crazy. We're gonna have pho, which is probably not the best idea considering that it's so hot outside, but I've been craving it. Can you start by telling us about your coding and educational background?
So I got my undergrad degree in economics, so not related at all. After college, I worked as a product manager for this company called Morningstar. And in doing that job, I started to code more and more because our data team was really understaffed. And I really liked it, so I just kept doing it.
Did you just teach yourself?
Yeah, just taught myself. And yeah, so I got to know our data really well. So I worked with the data architect on a bunch of these projects, and he liked me, and he took a chance on me and brought me on board to the engineering team as a software engineer.
So Austin also got a degree from Harvard. He got a master's in computational science, but he doesn't like to tell anybody that he got it, even though I think it's kind of relevant. Austin got a large for $1.50 more, and it's massive. Our pho got progressively worse, but we got some free Thai iced teas. Do you want to tell people how you taught yourself to code, and then what other coding experience you have?
There's this book called Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. It literally walks you through like doing mundane, annoying, repeatable tasks with Python. So I learned like the very basics with that, and then I just started applying it to stuff at work.
Did you have like a mentor or a teacher?
Yeah, I think when I joined the data team, the data architect was like my mentor, and he was also a professor at a college in Chicago. So he taught me like so much, and I feel like I got a whole degree working with him.
Wow.
Yeah, he was really great.
What a homie. What was your timeline and approach for finding a new job?
So it was about 6 months from the time I started, like initially prepping to when I got the job. And then my approach, you say?
Yeah.
There's the skills that you have as an engineer, and then there's the interviewing skill set, which is its own kind of separate but kind of overlapping thing. I knew I needed to learn more of the interviewing skill set, so that's like data structures and algorithms, systems design, stuff like that. So I actually joined this coaching program called Formation that helped me with those skills.
Okay, I have some questions about Formation. How did you know about them?
I think the founder, Sophie, showed up on some podcast that I listened to, and she just seemed really bright, and like her approach to interview prep seemed like it really made sense.
Okay.
Then I looked into it and it seemed pretty great, and I actually interviewed a bunch of alums from the program to see what their experience was, and they all had glowing reviews.
Oh wow.
So that's when I decided to pull the trigger and do it.
What kind of support did they offer you?
Much more than I ever anticipated. So it's like from top to bottom, like they basically tell you step by step what to do to get, a job at a, FAANG or FAANG level company.
Okay.
So it starts with a really structured curriculum to learn like certain data structures and algorithms, like from start to finish.
Okay.
And then after that, just a lot of mock interviews with mentors that are in the industry.
So other people who are currently working as software engineers in FAANG are part of the program?
Yes.
And they volunteer to interview you? Do mock interviews for you?
Yes, yeah. So there are the fellows, like people like me who are learning, and then the mentors who are there to teach. They have these things called workouts where it'll be like one mentor with a number of fellows. And they kind of train you through a problem. And then there'll be mock interviews where it's just you and a mentor, and they literally put you through what an interview at one of these companies looks like.
Okay.
Yeah. In addition to that, there's a lot of fellow to fellow sessions where like a fellow will mock you, or you'll work on a problem together, which are also super useful. But I think the key thing, at least for me, that stood out was just like the sheer repetition. So I probably did 100+ mock interviews.
Damn, that's a lot.
Yeah. So by the time you get to the real thing, it's kind of like muscle memory.
It sounds like it could be a big time commitment. Is it flexible? Like, can you do it when you want?
Yeah, they actually have a really cool platform where you enter your availability.
Okay.
And the platform matches you with sessions and mock interviews and stuff that align with your availability.
Okay, cool.
And then you can also schedule mock interviews and stuff according to your own calendar. So
cool. Do they also give you a curriculum of exercises you can do on your own time?
Yep. Yeah. So I think it starts with a lot of structure, and then towards the end, there's less and less structure as you actually interview. But at the beginning, yeah, certainly like there's this very structured curriculum of these very specific algorithm types and data structure types that you have to work through. And they have this really cool thing in the platform where it tracks your mastery in each one of those sub-concepts.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So it's like a report card, a progress report.
Yeah, and exactly. And you can see like which concepts you're killing and you really don't need to focus on anymore, and which concepts that you should practice more.
Are you like assigned to one person who is responsible for you?
Yeah. So every fellow gets this thing called like a fellowship manager. Okay. And he or she is just kind of like your person, like your spirit animal. Your what's the your guardian angel. Yeah, exactly. Okay. It kind of takes you through the program, and he or she kind of assigns you work along the way, and is kind of your point of contact for everything that you might need.
What's the difference between formation and a boot camp?
Typically in a boot camp, it's more for getting from zero to some baseline level of competence. Okay. Whereas formation is more like after you've gotten to that baseline, these are the skills that you need to up level and get into a FAANG or whatever level software engineering.
So it's like a brush up.
Kind of, and it's specifically tailored to like get you ready for that interview. So kind of how I talked about like software engineering is a skill set and the interviewing is a skill set. Yeah. It's more on the interviewing side of things.
Okay, so how do you know if your baseline is good enough to not have to do a boot camp and go straight to formation?
So they actually have a pre-assessment. So before you get in, you apply, and then they give you like this online assessment thing where you do a few data structures and algorithms problems. Okay. And then you also meet with a current mentor who will take you through this like coding exercise. Okay. And I think if you are deemed good enough after that, then you join the fellowship.
How long is the formation program?
It's until you get a job, basically.
Oh, so if it takes you a year and a half to find a job, they'll stay with you and offer you support for that year and a half?
I think so. I don't know any fellow that has taken that long. Okay. Longest I've seen is like 9 months. Okay. But yeah, as far as I know, the ones that took 9 months, they had, access to the support the whole time.
That's cool. So it sounds like time really isn't an issue. They just want to be there to support you on whatever timeline works for you. And then the goal is to get you a job.
Yeah. I think that's generally right.
Oops. Oh God. Where are we going? I've never gone through this way. This is a cool route though.
Oh, I see the beach.
Okay. We're at the beach. Check out how crowded the beach is. The one hot day in San Francisco and everyone is here.
All tech companies like to put labs out.
We found this really cheap sunscreen at CVS to replace this really cheap sunscreen we used to use from Walgreens, and it's so good. It's also like $4.
This is not it. This is a bottle that I used to house my cheap sunscreen.
It's a good bottle. Props to the packaging engineer. So my plan was to use my AirPod Pros as an external mic, but I found out that the native camera app on the iPhone does not enable you to use a Bluetooth mic. I don't know why. So we're gonna use Austin's phone as a mic at the beach. Okay, are you ready for the next question? How did you line up interviews and get noticed by recruiters?
Mostly, I reached out to people who worked at companies I wanted to work for and had them refer me. So a lot of my friends from grad school. Formation does actually direct referrals. So actually the company that I ended up going with and the team I ended up going with was from a formation referral. It was their only referral that I got from them, but it ended up working out. Another thing I would recommend is there's this website called refer.market. there's a bunch of like target companies that you can ask for referrals from, and you submit your resume and they'll match you with someone who works there, and they'll literally refer you. And I think you have to pay a fee, but it's like super cheap. It's like ridiculously cheap, like $250 or $350.
Wow.
Yeah.
You also mentioned that you use Blind for referrals.
Forgot about that. Yeah. And if you don't know what Blind is, it's like this online forum, kind of like Reddit, but for like the tech industry. So you sign up with your company email and make an account, whatever. But every once in a while, Good Samaritans will show up and be like, oh, I'm giving out referrals to my company. DM me if you want one. So I did that.
Well, also they get the referral bonus, right?
Right.
So
yeah.
it's not, well, yeah, they're still nice for doing that. But
yeah, for sure.
There's something in it for them.
Yeah, so I did that for a couple of companies too.
How was the interview process? Because I know that it can be pretty grueling, and like you said, it's not super representative of the actual software engineering job.
Yeah. In terms of like the logistics of the process, it starts with the application or referral or whatever your entry point is. If they notice you and they want to talk to you, they'll reach out for an informal recruiter call. And that is, I wouldn't stress about that too much. Like, they just get on the phone with you and make sure that your interests are aligned with the hiring team. If that goes well and you guys seem like, it seems like you're a good fit with the team, they move you to the first technical screen, in which they'll ask you like a single, usually leet code type of data structures and algorithms question. You have 45 minutes or an hour to solve it. And then after that, if you clear it, they move you to the on-site or virtual on-site, in which you'll have like 4 to 6 interviews covering more leet code style data structures and algorithms questions, systems design, behavioral questions, and then probably some domain-specific interview in whatever domain you're in.
For mechanical engineering, sometimes they do technical challenges where they give you a project.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
I had a couple of companies ask me to do it, but I just told them no, basically.
You can do that?
I mean, it's risky. If you really care about the company, I wouldn't, but for like a couple of smaller companies, they asked me to do it, and I was just honest with them. I said, honestly, between a full-time job and my interview prep, I can't commit to doing a take-home assignment.
Okay.
But I'd be happy to do an additional technical interview if you need to get signal from me that way. And they actually agreed.
Oh.
So, yeah, if you're willing to like risk it, I would recommend doing that if you don't have the time.
That's such a diplomatic way of saying no.
Yeah. Nah, bro.
Is timing strategy something that you can get support from Formation on?
One good thing about Formation is that there's like this job hunt channel that every fellow gets. And so you have access to like your fellowship manager that I talked to you about, your guardian angel person, and then a member of the career staff who's really good. And then even the 2 founders are on your channel and they chime in from time to time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So basically, if you have any career-related questions, you just ask that channel and they get back to you. And all of the insights that they gave me, at least, were really, really helpful.
Okay, I have to ask a question about when you hit the wall. Because when Austin first started out, it was not super smooth. He had a bunch of smaller companies lined up, and I think you were getting a little bit frustrated because you weren't performing as well in these actual interviews as you were in your mock interviews with Formation.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that seems to be pretty common, at least in what I've seen in other people who do these kind of videos.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk more about what you changed?
Yeah, my first month of interviewing, I would say, was with the smaller companies, and I just totally bombed most of them. I was performing much lower than what I knew I could do. It was just really frustrating for me, and I think my initial response to that was just to work even harder and put more pressure on myself, which was stupid. So yeah, I think, you made the analogy that I was like, it was like I was training to run a marathon by running marathons every day, which is obviously not sustainable. The big shift I made is I just took time off and rested, and that allowed me to perform much better.
You were just in such a bad mental space.
Yeah.
And then taking even just one day of not doing any leak code problems, not even thinking about it, just like watching a show, going on a bike ride, helped you reset so much.
Yeah, it was like I couldn't solve like simple leak code easies because I was just so mentally exhausted. And then I took off like 2 days and I was like right back to where I was again. It was amazing. It was like night and day. Yeah. So yeah, there's you're not a machine, and there's definitely a breaking point when it comes to these problems. Just especially because it's like a puzzle, and your brain needs to have like the rest to think creatively and come to a solution. So rest your mind for sure. Another thing I would say is like, half of the interview process is preparation for sure, but the other half is just dumb luck. So like, I feel like in a lot of ways I got really lucky with the offer that I got, just in terms of the interviewing, and that can happen. And I got really unlucky with a few other places. So, don't beat yourself up over bad luck.
Yeah, it's such a crapshoot when it comes to these interviews. Every time he'd finish an interview, I would ask him how it went. And Austin's the kind of person where you can really take his word as it is. So if he thinks that it went really well, I believe that it went well. But there's no correlation with how he thinks he did and what the actual result was. It's just, you don't know until you actually hear back from the company. In terms of things that you can control in the interview process, what are some tips you would give to people?
I think be hyper communicative, especially in your technical rounds. So like, literally, like, I would tell the interviewer like what I was doing in terms of my thought process. So I'd be like, okay, I'm not really sure about an approach right now, but I'm gonna just start walking you through some examples to like see if something jumps out to me. Or I'd be like, I don't think that this is the optimal solution, but I'm gonna code this up and then we'll get to the optimal solution after that if we have time. So just like be super explicit about what you're doing, because I think that really helps the interviewer like key into like your thought process and how you approach things as an engineer. So I think that really worked for me.
I think the other thing that maybe gave you some sort of edge was that you would also, like you said, you would help other people do mock interviews. So it kind of puts you in the mindset of the person on the other side.
Yeah,
and like what kind of answer you're expecting or how you would answer it.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe also doing mock interviews for other people just to get a different perspective.
Yeah, being the interviewer in the mock interviews, definitely helped. Yeah, it's a good point.
Is there anything else interesting or weird or unexpected that you encountered during the process?
My process was like March through August-ish. And in the middle of that time, we went from a really hot tech hiring market to layoffs and hiring freezes. And yeah, that sucks. Like, there's no getting around the fact that sucks. But that just, that goes to my original point where it's like half luck, right? So like one of the loops I was in, I passed, but there was just a hiring freeze, so they didn't hire. They closed that rec, which sucked. But yeah, it's half luck, and you can't control it, and don't beat yourself up over it.
As we progress in our career, interviews become less one-sided, where you are trying to impress, and it's more about, obviously the company has to want you, but it also has to be a match.
Yeah.
So what were you looking for?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't know. I just wanted a good culture, if that makes sense.
What do you mean? Like, you want to rest and best? You want to chill?
Not necessarily, but like, like I know at some, especially bigger tech companies, like engineers are just kind of like cogs in this gigantic wheel, and they're just kind of treated as disposable whatever.
So you wanted to be an impactful team member doing important work, meaningful work.
For sure. Another important thing is like, I wanted a place that put a priority on like building long-term, like sustainable projects rather than just like putting out fires all day. So yeah, to your point where it's like the reverse interview process, like after I interviewed, I actually reverse interviewed the team that I interviewed with to see what things were like. And yeah, so the team that I'm joining, I'm really excited.
Okay, so do you want to share where you're going to be starting tomorrow?
I'll be a software engineer at Amazon in Amazon Web Services.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about negotiations, because I know that's a really big part of the process, and for me, it's super stressful. How did it go for you?
I would say like just do your research to know what your market rate is. So I literally scraped the data from levels.fyi, which is a salary collection website, and I built a distribution, and I plotted, where their offer was on the distribution. So I literally knew exactly where I stood, and then I negotiated for, my desired comp based on that distribution.
So you make it sound really straightforward, or you make it sound very database and just like, oh, this is where I was and this is where I wanted to be, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
Which I feel like kind of ended up being the case for you, but it's not always the case.
Yeah.
what other tips would you have for negotiating? And did you get any support from Formation when it came to what to ask for, how to do it, timing?
Yeah. So I definitely got help from Formation for their career services, which was really helpful. So I think competing offers always help. So yeah, I mean, okay, I think your recruiter may or may not like say a bunch of stuff to try to like
lowball you, level set.
Maybe I don't know. That wasn't my experience, but I know that happens. But I think if it does, like the more that you can be informed by the data, the less that stuff is going to shake you, because they can say whatever they want. If you have the data that you have pulled in front of you, you know what the market rate is, and you know where your offer stands in reference to it. Same thing if you have competing offers. Like, that is the most direct way to have your market rate established, because another company is paying you more than this offer, so obviously your market rate is higher, right?
Okay, cool. I think we're done. Thank you. Good luck tomorrow.
Okay.
I hope you love your team.
Speaking of negotiation, do I get a commission for this interview?
I think we can talk about that offline. Let's table this discussion. Okay. Thank you.
I didn't know Hawaiian water.